Well, this isn't good. And newly sworn in Governor Timmons wants to do something about it. One of the first tasks a new governor has is turning their campaign promises into policy. And one of the best ways to do this is with the state's budget, crafting a budget that funds their policy objectives. To that end, the governor's been drafting a budget that focuses on sustainability, and she understands that transportation is a big part of that. Her goal is to get people out of their cars and using more sustainable forms of transportation. To do that, the state will need more pedestrian facilities and transit service that is both reliable and frequent. And to that end, her budget gives more priority to active and alternative transportation than former Governor Johnson's budgets did. And after submitting her budget, she immediately gets pushback from the legislature, from representatives arguing that most people drive cars, so there's no point in investing in other modes of transportation. The governor fires back that people drive because they have no other options. And for weeks, there's a stalemate of sorts, until the ice begins to thaw. The legislature offers to fund the governor's request under the following conditions. First, they want a 10% increase in the major highway development program for new highway construction and expansion. Second, they want grade separation and passenger sidings for all rail corridors in Magnolia County. And finally, they want to include an earmark for a new 4-lane state highway to Paradise Bay in Magnolia County. The highway being added to the budget bothers the governor, and she wonders aloud why the legislature is so insistent upon it. But ultimately, she accepts the compromise because of how important she believes the transit expansion to be. In this episode, we're going to take on the rail work associated with this project. That will include grade separation of all the tracks within the county, the creation of a passenger rail siding, and the creation of a custom rail station to serve the university. In addition, we'll call a mulligan on the passenger rail station in Ike Yards, adding a custom station with a more appropriate scale for the area. And if you like taking on rail projects, hit the like button. And if you're just here to watch me struggle, hit the like button for that too, and let me know what you are doing down in the comments. Or leave an emoji representing how you feel for the sake of engagement. And without any further ado, let's jump right in. Hello and welcome back to Magnolia County. I wanted to start here to show you why we are taking on the build that we're taking on today. Our train network is completely choked with traffic and it is blocking things from one end of the county to the other. You can see that there's no movement here. These vehicles are not despawning. And as a result, we have areas like this where we've got a whole bunch of pedestrians that want to cross the street, a whole bunch of vehicles, and a whole bunch of trains that are all stuck. So what we are going to do is completely reimagine this. We're going to grade separate the track from the roads, and we're going to add a siding track along our main line. So the main line is the one that we have going right here, connecting from one outside connection to the other. Our siding track will be a lower speed local branch from the main line that serves our passenger service. So we'll be able to separate these for the most part as they go through the city, hopefully improving our timing for our passenger service and making sure that our cargo doesn't get backed up like this. So to begin, we're going to be calling a mulligan on most of our main line, temporarily at least. I want to delete this so that we can use the parallel tool to have two tracks that are in complete parallel throughout the entire county. And our passenger service ends right about here, so I think I'm going to begin our deletion right about here, and we're going to take this all the way to the edge of the county so that we get close to this new junction that we created in the previous episode. And I want to make sure that we aren't bumping up or doing anything crazy here. If we can have this be perfectly flat, we should and we will. So I'm going to turn the parallel mode on. We'll keep this about one offset. That should be fine. And then for the most part, we'll use our continuous tool. Now we're going to be outside of our boundaries for most of this. So I'm going to Control A anarchy on. And then I want to keep a decent distance from this road right here, just in case we want to do something in the future, turning that into a larger road, including actually that 4-lane road that we discussed in the intro. You know, I always say, don't let perfect be the enemy of good, but in this particular instance, I think I might. I want this to be the most perfect train track that I've ever set up, which is probably the most unreasonable and unrealistic goal that I could give myself. But we're going to see, and we'll experience this together. Maybe it'll go well. Maybe it won't.
And may the odds be ever in your favor.
Now, I am going to more or less mirror the path that we were going down before, because in reality, I think we would reuse this bridge that we had before. But of course, we eliminated that for simplicity's sake. Let's try to not deviate all that much. And I think that looks pretty darn good. Now, we are going to be entering an interesting section. First of all, lots of controversy about this in the previous episode. Here's what I noticed that was I thought pretty interesting. Everyone in North America that had any experience with rail basically said what I had was totally inappropriate and I needed to redo it. Anyone from Europe, on the other hand, thought that it was completely acceptable and said that the train should just slow down, which I thought was fascinating. I have not seen a split that large in quite some time. Now, we could fix this, but I don't think I want to in this particular instance, and I think we're going to stick with it. All of that said, this needs to be improved. So we'll do something like that. The only thing that could be complicated is this is not supposed to be for our passenger siding. So this track right here is going to cross over our passenger track and get over to our cargo rail network. So just keep that in mind. Those are the sorts of things that we are going to need to keep straight. And actually, I think that this is already doing what we want it to do. You can see it's crossing the track. It is connected, and you could junction between the two, but it's perfectly connected to this one, which is exactly what I was hoping for. For the rest of this, it should be fairly simple, except that we need to go up and over these. I would swap it to be the other way, but we are redoing our train tracks here, not the road. Generally, the train tracks are already pre-existing, so that wouldn't be the case, but we're gonna take some liberties this time. Now, I think I'm gonna complete this bridge first, and I think if I get this about 8.75 over, we clear the road without the track bending at all, which is ultimately my main goal. Now, I wanted to have a really nice movement through here with really reasonable slopes. I think we may need to take some liberties here, but I am going to try to berm this up. You know, that is something that would be considerably cheaper to do than have a gigantic bridge. So let's shift terrain. We're going to copy this to both sides, and then I want to slope. And I know I've got to go a long ways back, so I'll right mouse click up here and go all the way back. Now, it's going to be considerably more challenging to try to salvage what I'd already built than to just build something new. So I'm going to try to ground level this across here. And you can see that it's very happy to do that. If I would have tried to save the bridges that I put together, it would be next to impossible. Okay, I had to redraw this because we were having some issues. I also noticed that I inadvertently used the double train track station tracks for these. Those will add a whole bunch of crossover tracks. We don't want those, and I don't even know that I can upgrade this to make it work. I can. So we're gonna leave it, but it's still a little bit ugly, and I really want this to be just right. So I'm going to redraw this until it is just right. And just once more, and it's completely perfect. All right. So now we need to connect up with these. Oh my goodness. And it's mad because this new segment of rail is actually touching that bridge pillar. So the only way I can fix it is to delete the bridge and redo it. Or actually, I've got one more attempt, one more idea. So I turned Anarchy on and I double clicked the road and it moved that pillar over just enough. And now with Anarchy off, I'm guessing that I'm good now. There we are. Now, I wanted to make sure Anarchy was off because the last thing I want to do is inadvertently screw all of my track up because I'm anarchying all over the place. And now we're in kind of the interesting spot because this is where I actually want to have this train station. So I want to get to ground level by then. So we can have the train station right about here. I'm going to right mouse click up here and then slope up from here and see what this slope is like. And I can just imagine that this house right here is super thrilled with what I just did, but they're going to have to live with it. I'm living with it. They will as well. And that gets us to about 2%, which is what I was hoping for. So I'm going to send that all the way through. And there we go. We're relatively flat through here, but now we have our next issue. And that is we planned for this bridge to be perfect for just one track. So we're going to have to probably rebuild that. But before we do that, let's figure out how we get over here. And what I think we might do, once again, is steal this height up here because we know that this is good enough to clear a road and it seems relatively flat. So we'll have a little experiment right here. Honestly, not bad. The other thing that I'm noticing is that this road actually comes up. So maybe if we back this out and level that, we give ourselves even more height. And once again, that is the height of realism. I'm trying my best to keep this off the university property. This is all right-of-way right here, so we can operate within there. It's those bridge spans that are going to be a little more challenging to deal with, but we'll figure that out. The other thing that I'm noticing right now is that this isn't angled correctly, so we are going to need to turn this in, and that might be a reason that I call a bit of a mulligan right here and plan out this bridge before anything else. Now you can see that this is actually dropping 2.5% in grade. I don't think we want that. I think we want this to be relatively flat. So I'm going to bump this up to 7.5 meters, which will keep this flat. Now we're probably going to have to turn this maybe around here. But before we do any of that, we're going to take this right back down to 0% and redraw some of this in. And now we're going to use our simple curve to make these connections. That looks very good. Very, very, very good. And we didn't have anarchy on, so we know that this works right here. Now the last little segment over here is going to require us to do a bit of damage. Now for my own sanity, I'm going to turn anarchy on for a moment and just go right over the top of this. Now very clearly that didn't work out perfectly here, but I do like some of what it did, and it gave me some ideas. Like I hadn't been considering having some of our retaining walls right there, but I do think the effect is nice. The main problem is that there's overlap. I'm going to try something, and it might not work. We're going to use move it and try to move this node. Oh no, and I did it. That old city skylines one thing. I had move it on with anarchy, and look what happened. The trees are all poking through. Some things never change. But beyond that, I do think it looks okay. The one thing I might do to improve this is I want to add another node, maybe right about here. And I've added extended road upgrades into the playlist because it's been ported over to Paradox Mods. And what I'm thinking is we will just add that right here. And we should be able to clean this up after the fact. So let's see, to get rid of all the trees that I got poking up through the road. And one more upgrade, and that is very clean. We could do that without all of the work that I was about to do. So feeling very good about that. Now for this next bit, we are going to need to delete this station. This station is a problem. So we're going to delete the whole thing and all the track over here. So this is the mulligan of all mulligans. And now before we do anything with this, I want to make sure that our ground is at the correct height. So we're going to level this. And what I'm thinking is I want to be able to have some sort of connection all the way across here. My big regret is not doing that previously. So I am going to ground level this so that the path is the exact same height as our rail. And then I think we're going to get rid of the Washington lane right here and slope down and rethink this entire area. And then I want to begin our slope. So I'm right mouse clicking up here, left over here, and I'm going to slope up to this to give ourselves more time to slope. And now let's begin our rail on this side. And that's nice and even. We'll make our connection here. So the two lines that are connecting are the top one and this main line right there. So we'll make that connection in just a moment. I want to finish out this little area right here. And you can see one of these is bumping up. Not sure why that happened. We'll just take it back. Oh my goodness, we're going to do this. We're going to be doing this, aren't we? I will control this. You will not get the best of me, City Skylines. There we go. I just had to be very controlled with that one, and I was able to make it happen. Now, this one over here, I think we may want to rethink these tunnels as well. I'm a little bit concerned that this ends up becoming a major barrier. And I get it. Rail is a major barrier, but I wonder if having a bridge for one of these would help resolve some of that. So while we're calling mulligans, I might take this one in particular and convert that into a bridge so that you're not completely underground for everything. And now I think that this is relatively, oh, that is a ways up. We are going to take out our pedestrian bridge. So there's a little bit of irony to this. Here we are attempting to improve pedestrian connectivity, and in the process, taking out our most elaborate pedestrian crossing in the county. And again, just like before, I'm going to turn anarchy on momentarily so that I can make this connection. And then I think we'll need to do a little bit of repair work here. By a little bit, I mean a lot. This got a little away from me. And I think the biggest issue that I'm seeing here, besides the fact that this bridge is no longer high enough, which we'll repair that. The biggest issue is that this is partial bridge, partial not. Now I have an idea. Since we're taking on this major project already, why don't we just extend this bridge a little ways and we'll establish this roadway connection that we didn't have established before. That would be a huge win for this neighborhood. And there we go. I think that is pretty good. Once again, I want to reimagine this little short segment right here. It's dropping about 1.5 meters. And I know, don't let perfect be the enemy of good, but you guys know who I am. And I can't leave this like that. I think that is pretty darn good. Now, I want to take this southern track or bottom track, and we're going to take a two-way train track. We're going to use our replace tool and replace this all the way down to here. And I'm going to keep that fairly tight. Now, for this, I think I'm going to convert this to be two-way train track going in and out of this neighborhood, or rather not neighborhood, but community. And now I want to take this and just connect this right into our passenger line. Now I went a little bit beyond this because we are going to be taking this connection and we'll run that right into our main line. Oh, that looks really nice. I like that a lot. So now that we've got that, I want to go over and we'll check out this area. This is probably our biggest concern area. This is a cargo line, so we need this to cross over. And there's something interesting happening right there. It makes me wonder if I use station track there inadvertently. Either way, quick fix, not a big deal. And now I'm going to once again curve this in. That honestly, I think that looks pretty outstanding. We don't have any rail spaghetti going on. So we are going to accept that. And then finally, we need to make our connection way down here. There's a whole bunch of other small landscaping work to do around here. We will handle that during our landscaping section. But these bridges, I don't know that I can leave these. I'm not going to be sad about redoing this. I am going to, however, give myself some new nodes. And now what my game plan will be is to basically make a nice curved connection into our existing tracks. And I'm not doing these in parallel because that doesn't matter anymore. They should be in parallel if I get this right. Oh, that looks outstanding. That looks great. All right, so we've got our other track, which will be over here, our cargo right there going up and over the top. And then we've got to make our last junction right in. I think before this starts to angle, we're going to back it out and just make our connection right about here. I think that looks pretty outstanding. Now, some of these errors that we have right here are from our existing stops, but we will get those resolved in just a moment. And finally, we've got two more grade separations down here that we need to take care of. We got one right here and another one down here. I think they're both going to be fairly simple. Rather than adjusting the track itself, for these ones, we are going to adjust the roads. And I think we're going to change hierarchy through here. So I want to take this street and connect it up right here. And then that'll go right into the Rose Highway. And now for this entire area, I'm going to try to build it up. And normally I want to save all the grading for landscaping, but I think I am going to do a bit of it now just so I can actually see what this looks like. Boy, and you know what? That's a little bit closer than I would like it to be. Oh, and there's a dip in the road as well. Oh, it's too ugly. We've got to do better. We've got to do better. Okay, I think we finally got it now. It is considerably higher. There's still this extra pillar right there, but I think it's necessary to make this work. So we should be able to make our final connection. And there we go. Now for this, we currently have it as a local street. I don't know that that is the best or most logical connection for this. So I will convert this to be a highway. And then as it gets over here into this area, it can once again neck down to a local road. I think that makes a ton of sense right there. Just means we have to add that power, but very, very good. And then over here, our very last connection, we've got this one. Now I'm hoping that I can just begin elevating this because this is going to be a really challenging road fix over here. So you can see it's relatively flat. If we were to do this, I mean, that length, that span right there is not good enough to get us down. So I think that we've got to adjust the rail for this one. And there we go. That is looking pretty darn good. Before we move on, I do want to point out I am aware of these crossings of local roads right here. We're going to let these ones slide. This is a siding, so I think if you're going to have those local connections, having it a siding and not the main line is probably the way you want to go. And with all of our rail improvements made, let's move on to building our university train station. Now, for this train station serving the university, I don't want it to be anything outrageous. Just something very simple that allows people to get on and off, preferably without walking across the train tracks. Now, this right here, this situation would never fly. I think that the train operators would heavily lobby against this train station unless we were able to add fencing basically along this entire area and completely separate the path from the train tracks. So that's where we'll begin. I'm going to delete this. We are going to reestablish this, but it will be something a bit better over the top. And then right here, what I think we're going to do is grab our pavement path. We're going to redraw this in. And then I want to be very careful. And I want to do this. So you can see that I'm not crossing. I'm not creating a junction across the track. If I touch it, I do. But if I do this, it links us up to the side. That is all that I want. Now along the side here, we'll do something like this to make it seem like we have a platform. And then I'm going to use Move It to get this nice and tight. And then I just paged up these to get them to be really nice. So they're completely level with this now. What I'm thinking that we'll do is we'll go up maybe 2 units and then over. So let's fill this area in. So what we'll do is go into Find It. And I want some of our tile surfaces. And I decided to freestyle a little bit and try to create kind of a unique design through here. So we've got 3 up here and over here and 2 in the middle. And I think that that looks pretty darn nice. Now, we are going to need to decorate this and make this look nice, but I think we'll worry about that in the landscaping and detailing section. What I want to do now is just make sure that things are functional. So I'm going to close this. We're going to add in some of our invisible pedestrian paths, and with anarchy off and all of our snappings off, and anarchy on, I mean, we're going to add in some of those. I've just given a variety of different ways to get around here. Now, before we get this thing operational, I do want to cross over here. I'm going to try to take the elevation step as low as possible, turn off anarchy, because I want to go over here without needing anarchy on. There we go. And now I'll pull this out just a little ways with just a normal pavement path. What I want to do is have a spiral coming down. So I'm going to need to go a couple of units over, and then we'll use our continuous tool. That's the easiest way to make a spiral. Figure out how many units we want to go over, how big our spiral is going to be, and then I want to start dropping this thing. And there we go. I actually had to spread this out quite a bit further because of how much elevation there is to contend with here, and I thought that 10% slope was pretty steep. Now, you might not think that it is, but if you think about it, there could be people biking across this. I know right now, no bikes in the game, but maybe someday. And if you were in a wheelchair, ideally, I think you'd have an elevator right here, but we can't do that. So we'll need to take a couple of liberties and imagine that this is how it's handled. Now, this side is going to be considerably more challenging because we could potentially encroach upon these properties. So what we'll do is send it over here, and then we'll begin our loop. And there we go. I think that that looks pretty outstanding. I had to continue to mess with this a little bit to get it to be just right, but I really like it. I do also love the way that this little observation area looks. Kind of wish we had another pillar here, but if I do that, I think we break this and it ends up looking pretty bad. So I think that we'll leave it as is. Okay, now I want to make this little train station operational. So what we're going to need to do is pop into our trains and grab one of our integrated passenger train stops. Now, I'm going to be completely upfront with you and say that these can be a little bit finicky, and it looks like I'm already making it mad with the location of this pedestrian facility. I'm going to try to move this. And now you can see it's not mad when I'm placing this. So now we've got that place there, and what I'm going to try to do is just draw a passenger line. It's going to come from here and go out to Duluth, and then I'm going to come back here and stop, And then we're going to take that same route. Oh, actually, it completed this route. So I will instead do that to it because we are going to add an additional stop. And that should have the track now doubling back and forth. And look at that. It's not. It decided we're actually going to hop back over and go to Duluth before we go over. So that to me means that there's something wrong with this junction right here. So my guess is there are a couple of spots where we should probably add a couple of places to pass. And maybe that resolves our issue here because it really wanted to hop back on over here. The other thing I'm noticing is we don't have people actually coming through. I'm going to do one more thing. I think I'm going to make a direct connection directly to the center right here. Oh my goodness. What did I do? Okay, so what I decided to do was remove all of this from in front of the train, and I think I saw some passengers get off. So we'll just need to keep an eye on this once more. So basically, real gentle connections right here, all the invisible connections. And look at that. We've got someone going and waiting for the train. Look at all those passengers. Things are really looking good around here. And now that we've learned so much creating this station, why don't we move on to our Ike Yards redevelopment? Now, I want to move on to our Ike Yards redevelopment and reimagining, but I feel like I've got to show you this first. The weather is kind of how my mood is right now. It's not looking so good because we are once again dealing with crazy train backups. This time it is my fault though. So what we're having happen is basically this train wants to come down and use this track, and this train wants to leave, and it's not possible. So I think we do need to make a couple of improvements here. So I'm going to double track this. It's not what I wanted to do, but it's what I think we have to do. Now for the double track, I am going to try to bring the secondary track to the south of the main track, south bottom, you know what I mean. Now, interestingly, it is very unhappy with this junction right here. Oh, serenity now. We are going to do something I wasn't really excited about doing that I said I wasn't going to do, but I think that we have to do. I think we're going to change this. You can see it's all messy and all messed up. So I'm going to get rid of that and we're going to pull it back. We'll give it the radius that many of you wanted it to have. Got our trains jumping around, but that should be much better. All right, so I feel good about that. Now I do want to take this double track and extend this to our next station. And now right here, I think I may need to use Anarchy right here. I do. And then through here, hopefully I can start to stop using it at some point. There we go. Now we're in a spot where we can start to upgrade. So we'll bring this all the way to our new train station. And that's going to be right about here. I want this to be fairly centered. So we are going to need to modify the nodes. And I think that we are going to use this double tracks train station right here. So what I'm going to do is figure out where this platform is going to be. I'm going to give 4 units on that side and 4 on this side. And now I should be able to simply upgrade just that section. And that's not a full train. So I think I probably should make this longer now that I think about it. And I want another 4 units on either side. And the importance of that is that this is now centered. So I'm going to resume this again. We're going to hope for the best. Actually, we're going to continue our double track. I think we should take it the entire way. Okay, that should do the trick for us. Much, much, much nicer. We have the trains going through. We're in a good spot. Now, for this entire area, I want to rethink it a bit. So I think over here, we are going to keep, we've got kind of a tunnel underpass sort of thing happening. We're going to keep that over here. Over on this side, I'm a little less happy with it. So I think we're going to reimagine this area, and we're going to have a bridge going across here. And I think we can get away with that with the elevation. We'll have to play around a bit. And then Washington Lane entirely is going to disappear. The goal is going to be to bring more housing and commercial back here. So I think with a train station right here, Even if it's fairly small in this dense environment, it makes sense to really lean into the transit-oriented development aspect of this area. So we're going to hold off on doing more until we have this bridge in place. And what I'm thinking is I want to make sure anarchy is off because I want this to completely work. I want this to be as low as possible, at least 8.75 once we get over here. And it looks like we have to be at least 12 to make it work. And then to get over the top, wow, that is really high. I'm going to see, I really hope we can get lower than that. Let's call a mulligan on what we just did. Little eminent domain on that building right there, unfortunately, but I think that this is a much more rational bridge. There's a little jog in it though, which I don't love. So we'll just do something like that and just have a really ugly jog right there instead. I think I could probably fix this up with the replace tool though, so we'll give that a crack. There we go. That is looking much better. Now for this, that's basically what I want to do. It's a steep bridge. We're looking at 11% grade, but I think we can live with a little bit of that. Oh boy. Oh boy. No, we can't. That is terrible. Okay. That I can do. So we basically built this up. I didn't want this gigantic bridge over here if we didn't have to have it. Now I want to make one connection here, but I'm going to hold off on this until we reestablish the grid over here. So I'm going to right mouse click our top height over here, left click down here and slope up to this. And then we'll run that road right up there. Now I'm going to level this and we're going to do a lot of leveling. This is going to make this much more pedestrian friendly and much more accessible. Now there will be a couple of spots where we have a little bit of a hill right here. That's not the end of the world. I'm going to basically send a road up right here. That's going to dead end at the train track. And then I want to have a ticket office and a parking lot over here as well. And we're going to take this, and this no longer needs to slope up like this. We can simply ground level that now, which is going to be a considerably better connection for pedestrians. I am torn. You can see that this road is going up quite a ways. I don't want to ruin this housing. I'm going to see. Oh my goodness, that is terrible. So we'll get rid of that. And I think we might just accept this a little bit. Maybe I'll use move it to back out Washington Lane, straighten it up a little bit. And I think we'll leave it like that so we won't have that connection into that neighborhood. Truthfully, they're probably happy about it anyway. The one thing that we will establish is a pedestrian connection, because if we're going to have it be this close, we should do that. And there we go. Now they can at least walk up here. So now we've got this in place, and I mentioned wanting to have a station. Now I've been looking at a couple of commercial buildings over here in this little strip shopping center, and I think that well, these are the same. Either of these could do really well. So I'm going to grab this building using the picker mod. And we're going to pull that way over here. Now, I made picker huge. That was a mistake. We'll place that right about here. I'm not 100% sure that this is where this will sit, but we can raise and lower this with move it. But my idea is basically that this is the ticketing office. So I'm going to grab this with move it, and I want to raise this up to be this height right here. So I'll hit the M and then page up. And then I wanted to see if I could add a node right there. It didn't work. I think we might just live with a bit of imperfection. Oh no, we can't do that. What we'll do is back this building out a little ways. And I think something like that could do the trick for us. Over here, we're gonna have a custom parking lot. So for this, we go back into the landscaping menu under pathways, and we're gonna use one of these invisible road paths, and you just can't touch the side. And there we go. This is how an invisible parking lot needs to be laid out. You don't actually snap the invisible roads to the actual roads, but you see an indication that it is functional because you have these green lines pointing to the real road. So this should be completely functional. We just need to have some sort of a surface underneath it. Now, at some point, I lost this building, which I find to be very frustrating, but we are going to figure that out as well. But not before we turn this into an opportunity. I decided to use move it to try to get this completely flat. And now once again, we'll use picker to try to grab that building and bring it over here. And there we go. This building is not disappearing. Our parking lot is working. So it's time to finally add some pavement to the parking lot. So in Find It, we'll probably go with concrete surface 1. Number 2 is a little bit more ornate. So I'm just going to go around this parking lot and draw this in. And there we go. A little bit of memory in here. Had to remember where I put all of my paths, but I remembered that we have an invisible path right here. Probably a little bit bigger than it needs to be. But now it looks like a full-fledged parking lot. That is a very bright texture, but I think we're going to roll with it. Let's move on to our train station itself. And for this, there's a couple of things that we need to do. First of all, I want this to be attached to both sides. So we are going to go to our pavement path. And I think I'm going to run something up the side here. And I want to get this, again, that 8.5 meters above, or 8.75 meters above the train track so that we can cross it. And then I'll just turn this right in right here. And it's telling me overlapping items, but I'm not actually seeing what is overlapping. So I'm going to anarchy force that. And now we're good. Now to me, we could do better here. So we're going to use this covered pedestrian bridge right over the top. And to me, it just looks a little bit more reasonable. Now we do want to set up our, oh my goodness, we lost it again. Are you kidding me? Serenity now. We're going to be fine. Serenity now. Okay, we've brought it back again. Now you might be wondering, do I just not have prop the growables in the build? I do. So I don't know what's going on, but we're going to keep trying. It's all we can do. We'll have a quick tile surface here. What I actually mean by that is we will try to completely mirror what we did before. So there we go. Okay, and I had to get rid of this little segment right here. It was causing lots of problems, but in general, I think that's looking pretty good. So let's make this functional. And again, we'll add our integrated passenger train stop. And then I'm going to see if I can just add onto this existing route. Oh, that's actually concerning to me. We saw the train back up and switch routes. Something's wrong with this entire route. Let's go back to the drawing board with that one. So the concern I have is that we don't have this drawn in the right order, so the trains are needing to back up, and we've now given them the ability to do so. So I'm going to start it here, and then we'll go to our next train station over here, and then we'll head out of town. And then rather than doubling back, even though this is what I really want to do, oh no, we're going to do it. We'll stop here again, and then we'll stop here once more. Instead of completing the line here, I'm going to send it to Nicolay Bay, and then we'll send it back here. And then what I think I'll do is just grab this and draw a waypoint there, and that should fix it. So that should allow us everything that we need to get through here. Now, one concern I have is you can see that there's a whole bunch of backup right now, and I don't think that this is going to know how to clear. Oh, actually, the backup is due to this. We can solve some of this. So I'm going to double track this through here just for queuing distances. So hopefully this cargo train will come and wait here, and that allows our passenger trains to sneak past. And look at that. That was the perfect distance to allow that cargo train just to wait there, which means that we don't have all the backups. So things are looking good there. Let's make sure that this thing is operational. And I just want to make sure that there are passengers waiting. And would you look at that? We've got our first train stopping right here, picking up passengers, looking really good. So this is fully functional. I'm happy with the way that this has turned out. The last thing I want to do over here is address our land use concerns. Not concerns really, but what we want to do over here. So what I want to do is have some of our row homes facing this road. I'm going to turn off the zoning on this road and that one. And we'll have a nice mix of densities over here. We'll have some row homes along here. We'll mix a mix of row homes. And then I'm also going to sneak in a couple of offices and a bit of commercial. And I think that's really going to liven this area up. Now, for this area over here, I think we're going to reserve this for future transportation uses. The city doesn't need to get rid of everything that it owns. So we'll keep that here. And then I want to clean this area up as well. And the way that we'll do that is to add a retaining wall to both sides of the road. And then I want to use the slope tool. Well, let's flatten this out first. We're going to come up with a common height. And we'll have that on both sides here. I think I want to clean up these bridges. They look a little strange. So just redrew these in, and then I'm going to use Move It to just adjust these just a little bit so they're completely parallel, because we have the ability to make things look outstanding now. Now for this area, We will slope. I'm going to slope to right about here, right mouse click up here, slope up. So we get a nice smooth retaining wall all the way up. And less that we can do over here. I could, though, with move it, do something like that, which I think does look a little bit better. And then we will just kind of feather this out a little bit. There we go. I think that is a considerable improvement through this area, and I can't wait to see it fill in. And there we go. We've got this entire area filled in, and I think it's looking really good now. But you know what this is missing is a little bit of landscaping and detailing. Now I have 3 simple objectives for the detailing today. I want to fix up some of the terraforming that we didn't finish over here. I want to add landscaping and props to each of the stations so that we have a little bit more detail. And then I want to make sure that our lighting makes sense in each of those areas. So let's begin by fixing up our grading here. And there we go. So I didn't want to go too crazy here, and there's some stuff that I can't control. Like for instance, all of the benches are different colors. There's literally nothing I can do about that right now. But I wanted to go around here, and I stole a trick from Overcharged Egg. I saw that when Egg put together a station, he used some of these sandboxes as kind of growing boxes for the trees. So I added some of that with some benches around here, some lighting, and I wanted to face that lighting, at least at this station, towards the train. So lots of activity here. Then I decided to use one of these food trucks as maybe a place where you could get tickets. So trying to think outside of the box a little bit. And then I wanted to line this up really well to keep people in the station. And on that note, I added fences all the way up and down here because I think that, again, that's something that the train companies would really want. They would want that protection from people jumping out in front of the tracks. It's a legitimate thing that they are constantly worried about. And then over here, I did a little bit more. So I added a bunch of landscaping, trying to control this and make it feel like a well planned out place. Added lighting to make sure that this is a well-lit parking lot so that folks would feel very comfortable leaving their cars here, especially if they were going on a long-distance trip. And then we have this right here, which is the ticket station. I tried to decorate nicely around here, even use Find It to steal one of these planters to make it extend all the way across, and then mirrored some of the same lighting tricks and pavement stuff over here as well. And honestly, I think it turned out very, very nicely. Now, there's one thing that I wasn't able to do that I think I could do with a little bit more patience, and maybe I'll do it off camera, is adding lighting up here is very challenging right now because there's no way to snap onto things. But I think with Move It, I could raise and lower the lighting and get it to work appropriately. But I think that is a future project, not one for today. So if you take that on, just know that is going to be a little bit of a struggle. And with our landscaping and detailing done, I think there's only one more thing left to do. That's take inventory of what we've done with a brief city tour. Now, I just couldn't help myself off camera. I continued to look through Find It, and look what I found. I found that we have these parking lot booths and these gates and these signs and even these EV chargers. And I decided to add those to this entire area because I think it just really brings some life to the parking lot and makes this whole area feel a bit more complete and cohesive. And then there's one other thing that I realized I hadn't done. I didn't bring the train back to Paradise Bay, so I decided to bring it here, but I'm a little bit concerned about this station. You know, in the long run, this may be the biggest place in the entire county, and as a result, maybe it'll have the biggest train station, but right now it's certainly out of scale, so I think that we may go ahead and adjust this soon, but that is something for a future episode because I think that we're going to leave this here, and I really hope that you've enjoyed this episode. If you did, please consider hitting the like button. If you're not subscribed to the channel, please consider doing so. I want to thank you for your time today. There's a million things that you could have been doing. You decided to hang out with me and play some City Skylines too, and I appreciate that, and I appreciate you. Thank you so much, and I can't wait to see you in the next one. Take care. Bye-bye.